afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Sean, Robert Quinn was named the Player of the Month. What have you seen from him from last year to this year, and how proud of you, or what are you of what he's accomplished?
The second part was how proud of I am. I mean, extremely. Anytime a guy gets an honor like that is great for the person, and obviously it's great for our defense because individuals are able to get some accolades when you're playing pretty good, and he's playing really good right now. He's got a good streak going with sacks, and I think the biggest thing I've seen him with Coach Shuey is their relationship and his ability to understand everything that we're trying to do for him and with him in this defense. Just like everybody else, but he's accepting those roles and he's excelling at them. And the thing, I said it to our guys on Monday, he's a prime example of somebody who's a vet, and a lot of times different based on the personality of the guys, they can get stuck in some ways, but he's excelling at everything that we're trying to teach him, and he's really taken it upon himself to keep improving at different techniques that sometimes he may not have done earlier in his career, and it's showing up on game day in a lot of different ways. Obviously, the first thing everybody sees is the sack production, but I mean his run play for us has been really good, and that's a credit to him. That he's still kind of engaged in that fashion.
Coming into this game against an offense that can be so very multiple with a dynamic quarterback, do you kind of have to, game plan-wise, go into it and say, okay, maybe we'll concede this thing or that thing so long as we don't give up this thing? I know you're not going to go into specifics of what those things may be, but do you kind of have to pick and choose when you're dealing with an offense that can beat you in so many different ways?
Yeah, I think that's a relevant question. I think that's an applicable question really every week in defense. You can't stop everything, right? There's no perfect call to stop everything on every play on defense. So that's what we talk about in terms of that hard hat mentality that we kind of keep preaching. So, yes, we know where we're going to keep moving that hard hat around, and we have a plan for that this week. And we got to move it around a lot because they got a lot of weapons on that offense. And so we got to keep moving around, try to stay ahead of the game that way. And then when those guys hit us in a spot where potentially a little bit softer in the coverage or something, you got to be okay with it because they got you. I mean, you got to keep moving it, and you got to keep playing that game with them, and then kind of wear each other down a little bit. And then when you get your chances to be aggressive, you got to be aggressive.
You guys replaced Kendall with Artie last week. How do you keep Kendall kind of locked in and use this as something that he can grow from so when his next opportunity arises, maybe he can answer the challenge?
Yeah, and we talked about that, I think, the week before, where he's got to continue to stay engaged, and he's been engaged, and he's been great, and he's been taking many reps, even with the ones at times during practice as we rotate guys through. And so I think, we had a good talk with him, and quite frankly, I probably should have played him more in the Detroit game. And the plan was to play him more from my end and Coach Desai's, and it kind of got away the way the game kind of flowed and everything. And so that sometimes happens, and I talked to Kendall right after the game too, and he understood it, and he knows that he's still an important part of our defense that we're going to need, and so he's been great, his approach.
Sean, you talked about the weapons that Kyler has at his disposal. What strikes you about the depth of targets that he has and the versatility from the top four receivers to Ertz to everything that he's got to use?
That's right. I guess the biggest thing is that they're distributing the ball all over the place. Obviously, when DeAndre Hopkins is back, and we expect him to be back, he's still the number one target, as he should be. I mean, he's earned that respect around the league with his play. But they're getting all those guys the ball in a variety of different ways, and they're getting them the ball in space. They're getting them the ball over the top. They're getting them the ball underneath in a lot of different ways. So they're doing a good job in terms of distributing the ball, and Kyler's doing a good job kind of playing that point guard as a quarterback and getting the ball out and getting to different people, extending plays when he needs to extend them, and then taking the shots downfield when he needs to take the shots downfield.
What makes him unique, would you say? I mean, he's blossomed. What makes Kyler the number one ranked quarterback in the league right now?
Yeah, I think a lot of things. Obviously, he presents as a really good leader on tape. I mean, there's not many mistakes happening. He's got command of the offense. He can obviously beat you with his arm strength and with his feet. And he's becoming, in my opinion, a much more patient passer in the pocket where he'll scramble to throw. And it's dangerous because, as a coverage guy, you're kind of nervous. is he a guy going to throw it? Is he going to run it? Because he's a fast guy. He can still make you miss in the open field, and you see that on tape. So he's got all those traits that you got to defend.
From a coaching standpoint, how difficult is it for you to take your lumps let Vildor take his lumps and maybe learn from it and be better, maybe even next year, as opposed to having somebody you think might be better now, like Burns? Is that a tough call?
Yeah, that's right. That's always a tough call, and we got to find that balance, and that's part of our jobs, is to find that balance of taking the lumps, and we've been pretty balanced in terms of that. He's played at a good point at some points throughout the season and flashed in a positive way. And so, it's nothing against him. It's kind of just what we felt was a necessary change as a unit, and it's not a permanent change. I mean, this thing is every week, and it's really series by series for us in terms of we're talking on the headsets as a staff of, okay, what are the guys we want to put out, and how do we want to go execute this next series and try to win this next series.
Sean, you've been without Khalil for a while now. How has it impacted your play calling and your ability to do some of the things you want to do in certain situations?
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously a special player, personally, you always feel bad. I got a good relationship with Khalil that he had to have that season-ending injury at the time, before he got hurt. And this is the remarkable thing. I was just told this. He had, I think, the highest sack rate of his career. And that's through probably about a month of playing through injury. So he was playing at a really high level. And so to replace that, it's not easy to replace a guy like that. And nor do we try. We got to, it takes all 11 to replace that production. That's what we got to do. And that's been kind of our emphasis. And like I've told you guys before, our standard of play is our standard of play. And you lose a superstar like him, well, we got to get other guys to step up and try to fill those roles. And do we expect them to beat Khalil Mack? No. But we expect all 11 to perform in a certain way to try to make our defense the best defense on the field that day.
Are there certain go-to calls that you've had to just go away from or adjust or find different ways?
Yeah, sometimes you scheme up some things for guys, and he's a guy that you do scheme up for because you need to, because the offense schemes for him. So you got to have some answers for that. And we've got a few guys like that, that we got to make sure that we can have some answers for to help those guys out in a positive way. And so, yes, some of those things that you try to help Khalil out, you go to some other things. And we've got that, and we've shown that. We've been still pretty good here in terms of sacking the quarterback,
Does his absence make Robert Quinn's value go up even more in what he's been able to do this season?
I think what you saw is, I think they're both multipliers. So when they were both on the field together, I think they both multiplied each other's play. And so I don't know if Robert's been a highly valuable player for our defense anyways. So I wouldn't say his value goes up. I think Robert's the type of guy that, he knows that, okay, his partner in crime is down. He's going to take some more ownership on himself to do some things, and he's done that. And that's a credit to him and the veteran that he is and the type of pro that he is. But, again, we try to make sure that Robert knows it's not just him, right? It's all 11 that's got to replace a guy. It can't just be one person, and we don't ever want to put the burden on one person to win or lose a game the way we play defense here.
You talk about keeping the standard is the same no matter who's in there, but you've had so many injuries.
Yeah.
I could go on and name them. For you, obviously, it's like half the defense. What's the greatest challenge in getting new guys coming in, and not just performing at a high level, but communication is the same? So before you had a whole bunch of veterans that have played together for 3 or 4 years, and now you got guys that literally were on other teams at the start of the season. Like what's
Yeah, that what you said is the challenge, and that's our kind of tests our merits as coaches. How good teachers we are, and how quickly we can disseminate information to our players, and how quickly they can process that and give it back to us. And then it's one thing to do in the classroom, as you guys can see. It's another thing to do it on the field when the bullets are flying. And so that's our art, and that's what we're I keep telling you guys, we're still a growing team. We're still growing as a defense, and we've gotten better, over the last month in a lot of different ways, and we're going to continue to get better, and that's our expectation. And as guys, it's inevitable, right? The more you play with somebody, the more comfortable you are with that person, whether it's communication, tools, techniques. How a person plays a route, even though it's the same. It could be man coverage, but everybody plays the man coverage a little bit differently. And so where this guy's going to be. And so that takes time. It takes time to build, and it takes time to process. And, necessarily when you're in the middle of the season, you don't have time. And so you got to get it done in a faster way, and that's what we try to do.
Sean, we've talked to you. talked to you previously about Jalen Johnson's mindset. He comes in here and says that he's very confident in his preparation, very confident in his ability. It seems like he's got increasing confidence in his voice, and I'm curious from your seat whether you sense him emerging as a guy that is becoming a voice and a leader for you in that regard.
Yeah, I do. You know, I think he's earned that right, and I think he's taken on that responsibility. And everybody kind of grows as a vocal leader in different ways, and everybody's not a vocal leader, and that's okay. But yeah, I do think that he's feeling more comfortable, and I think, quite frankly, that comes from a few things. It comes from his preparation, like you said, all the he knows the way he's preparing is helping him play at a certain level, and so when you have that preparation, then you have the output on game day. You know, that's how you can feel a little bit more confident with your voice, and he's earned that right.
One last thing on Vildor, because that's such a critical position, and he's been a starter. What are indications you see that he does learn well, and that he can learn from mistakes, or are these things that are physical, that maybe he's just, you know, not at that level or whatever? How do you make that determination, you know, looking forward as far as
Yeah, you know,
back in the groove?
Right. That's part of our process and the relationships that we build with our players. You know, when you're in a meeting room and you're with the person every day for a long time, you can see where the guy is improving mentally. And then on the field, you got to make sure it matches. And so he's been able to do that. He understands, in terms of the defense, what we want of him in that role, and everybody does. And he understands the techniques and the tools that we want. And then, is there going to be a growth process? Yeah. Is there an ever-growing process? Yeah. You know, I don't think everybody's ever capped. And a prime example of that is Robert Quinn, who's continuing to grow. And so, you know, he's got leaders around him that kind of show him that. And Kendall's been very humble in terms of, he's always been this way in terms of trying to be a sponge and learning and trying to keep improving his own game, whether it's his techniques or his mental aptitude of the game.
So what is Kendall not doing now that you hope, whether it's the end of this year or next year, he will be doing?
Well, I don't know if I would calculate one thing that way. I don't think that's necessarily fair to do that. It's just we wanted him to improve in some areas, and he knows those. And we wanted a little bit of a change-up on our defense with a different style of play, because you got a different type of player that plays the same defense but a little different way, like we just talked about. And so that's part of it. And so, again, Kendall is not a non-starter anymore. You know, he's still part of our plans, and we're going to continue to develop him that way.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.